The question was simple, but the reality was complex. Why did traces of Australasian DNA appear only in isolated Amazonian tribes? These markers were absent in North and Central America. This anomaly demanded scrutiny. What researchers found reshapes our understanding of human history. It confirms your ancestors were remarkably capable, skilled navigators. They solved survival challenges systematically. They did not merely drift into unknown lands. These ancient peoples had strategy and intelligence embedded into every decision. Harvard researchers discovered a remarkable genetic signal in Amazonian tribes. It linked them to populations thousands of miles away. The Surui and Karitiana carry DNA traces closely related to indigenous Australians and Papuans. This was more related to them than to other Native Americans. This unexpected signal suggested a story more complex than a single wave from Beringia. It was a sequence of deliberate migrations. Each group was equipped with knowledge, skill, and strategic insight. These ancient peoples were not accidental wanderers. They were skilled navigators. They planned multi-thousand-mile movements along coastal and riverine routes. Their migration was purposeful. They timed it with seasonal patterns, currents, and ecological knowledge. The signal comprised approximately 1 to 2% admixture from a lineage absent elsewhere in the Americas. It concentrated in the Amazon, suggesting selective survival of this genetic legacy. Northern and Central American populations lacked this signature. This emphasizes that these were distinct founding groups. Each group demonstrated remarkable adaptive strategies. The weight of evidence points to sophisticated, intelligent actors. They were capable of long-term planning and strategic settlement in unfamiliar landscapes. This was not happenstance. These groups understood their environment. They observed animal and plant cycles. They coordinated movement across hundreds of miles. They established camps near reliable water and shelter. This demonstrated foresight in site selection. The timeline is now fully mapped from roughly 18,000 years ago. This provides a continuity previously missing in human migration models. 3 independent labs verified identical genetic results. The pattern across multiple sites completes the picture. Ancient capabilities emerge clearly through genetic data. It reveals deliberate movement, survival planning, and intergroup interaction. Each discovery layers evidence of intelligence and coordination. Early fieldwork began with the reanalysis of data from 21 Native American groups. Pontus Skoglund and David Reich's team focused on fine-scale allele sharing. They used statistical models to compare Amazonian samples with 200 global populations. Sequencing new Brazilian samples confirmed the initial observations. Excess sharing with Australasians could not be explained by recent admixture. The finding implied that ancestors of the Surui and Karitiana retained a unique lineage. This came from a migration separate from the main Beringian wave. The methodology was meticulous. DNA sequencing involved reading the genetic code to identify shared markers. Statistical tests measured allele frequency distributions. They isolated contributions from distant populations. The team used multiple approaches, including F-statistics and admixture modeling. These ensure results are robust. Each method independently indicated a ghost population lineage. This connected South America and Australasia. Researchers named this lineage Population Y, or Wipiquera. The name comes from the Tupi word for ancestor. The convergence of evidence across techniques provided the completion sought for decades. Ancients emerged from these findings as deliberate, capable planners. They were not passive in their expansion across continents. Their genetics reveal an ancestry that survived bottlenecks and migration challenges. This indicates resilience and adaptive intelligence. The site-specific focus on the Amazon highlights environmental understanding. Dense forest and seasonal flooding required knowledge of ecological patterns. Ancestors navigated these challenges with strategies that optimized survival. Camps were planned with strategic foresight. They allowed access to game, water, and plant resources. Their movement was coordinated across generations. This reflects deep cultural continuity. The intelligence embedded in these migrations becomes visible when considering the geography. Coastal routes from Southeast Asia to South America demanded expert navigation. Groups needed to understand currents, tides, and winds. Navigation required systematic observation and environmental mastery. Ancients arrived and established communities that persisted. Archaeological parallels support this genetic evidence. Sites like Monteverde in Chile and Paisley Caves in Oregon provide temporal anchors. They confirm early systematic occupation of the Americas. Material culture from these sites demonstrates sophisticated tool production. They used deliberate selection of high-quality lithic resources. They also used coordinated hunting strategies. Such artifacts corroborate the genetic story. They reveal groups who mastered resource procurement and tool design with expertise. The Surui and Caritiana DNA signal aligns with these archaeological findings. It shows human movement in South America involved calculated decisions. Genetic data indicates this population contributed to the gene pool roughly 18,000 years ago. Radiocarbon dating places these lineages in clear temporal context. This technique measures carbon-14 decay over time. When living organisms die, carbon-14 breaks down at a known rate. Measuring remaining carbon allows scientists to calculate when individuals lived. This technique anchors the genetic signal within a timeline of planned migrations. Multiple dating methods converge. Isotope analysis measures chemical signatures showing diet and mobility. Analysis of bones reveals seasonal resource use. These groups tracked animal migrations and optimized foraging schedules. Patterns in isotopic ratios indicate repeated, coordinated movement between ecological zones. The results are consistent with deliberate planning and environmental mastery. This level of strategic capability extends to the tools used. Stone artifacts at Amazonian sites display deliberate selection of materials. They were chosen for hardness, fracture predictability, and edge retention. Artisans transported high-quality rock from sources over 100 miles away. This shows deep geological knowledge. Tools were crafted to specific specifications. This demonstrates systematic skill development over generations. This combination of genetics, isotopes, and archaeology illustrates a fully integrated survival strategy. Ancients established social systems capable of complex coordination. Hunting large game required multiple participants and planning drives. Distribution of resources was also managed effectively. DNA evidence shows populations maintained lineages despite isolation. This suggests strong social cohesion and knowledge transfer. Coordination and problem-solving were deliberate, reflecting expertise rather than chance. Breakthrough moments confirm these abilities. Microscopic analysis of residues on tools revealed protein traces of local fauna. 3 labs verified these findings independently. This evidence shows early groups selected tools optimized for specific prey. It indicates foresight, planning, and execution. Skilled hunters developed strategies to process large game efficiently. This reflects high-level understanding of animal anatomy and tool mechanics. Another smoking gun emerges from the pattern of genetic distribution. Australasia-related ancestry appears only in specific South American groups. It is absent elsewhere in the Americas. This spatial specificity shows that migration and survival were selective and strategic. Ancients carried knowledge that allowed them to integrate into new environments. They preserved distinct genetic lineages while doing so. Human movement to the Americas involved multiple waves with different skill sets. Evidence consistently shows these migrations were deliberate, coordinated, and adaptive. The genetic findings revise previous assumptions. The single pulse model of Beringian migration underestimated complexity. Ancients reached South America via coastal routes. They used environmental knowledge and navigational skill to traverse thousands of miles. They integrated into existing landscapes, mastering new ecosystems with expert problem solving. Archaeological context reinforces this. Sites with early occupation show hearths, pits, and tools arranged with systematic logic. Material remains indicate planning for food storage and fire management. They planned for repeated seasonal use. Coordination of space and resources reflects deliberate, skilled activity. Survival was not incidental. It required strategic thinking and social organization. Comparative analysis of global populations strengthens these conclusions. The Australasia connection implies early South Americans retained traits from a founding population previously unrecognized. Genetic data shows these lineages contributed selectively to Amazonian gene pools. This indicates both mobility and strategic selection in reproductive and social structures. Ancients maintained knowledge of movement patterns, ecological niches, and material resources. Every step in this migration demonstrates sophisticated decision-making. Evidence also suggests long-term cultural continuity. Genetic markers persist over millennia, implying social knowledge was transmitted across generations. Ancients mastered environmental adaptation and tool-making. The record is consistent with systematic planning, not chance occupation. Field methods confirm rigor in analysis. DNA extraction followed strict contamination controls. Sequencing validated allele sharing. Radiocarbon dating cross-checked with independent labs ensured temporal accuracy. The integration of these disciplines demonstrates that solving this question required multiple scientific approaches. They all converge to a coherent, consistent understanding. The pattern across sites is compelling. Australasia-related ancestry in the Amazon aligns with occupation evidence from Chile and Oregon. Multiple lines of evidence converge on an earlier, complex settlement scenario. The intelligence of these ancients is visible across disciplines. Genetic markers trace deliberate migration. Archaeological evidence shows planned camps, tools, and social organization. Isotope data reveals seasonal tracking. Material selection indicates geological knowledge. Each component demonstrates expertise, strategy, and adaptability. The timing also provides deep temporal context. These migrations occurred roughly 18,000 years ago during the peak of the last ice age. Sea levels were over 400 feet lower and vast ice sheets covered northern latitudes. Survival required precise environmental knowledge and long-distance navigation. Ancients thrived under conditions that would challenge modern observers. The genetic findings resolve previous gaps in understanding. Patterns of allele distribution confirm multiple migration waves occurred. The Amazonian signal demonstrates that founding populations were diverse. Each was equipped with strategies to adapt, survive, and propagate. Their success reflects intelligence, planning, and coordinated activity. Breakthroughs in methodology allowed this narrative to emerge. Sequencing, radiocarbon dating, and isotope analysis converged on the same timeline. Independent replication ensures findings are not artifacts of sampling or technique. The statistical clustering of results confirms robustness. Ancients' achievements are visible in strategy. They understood currents, seasonal patterns, and geography. They selected high-quality tools and transported resources over long distances. They coordinated group activities. These were deliberate actions demonstrating advanced problem-solving. The Amazonian evidence integrates with broader continental patterns. Sites from North to South America show consistent occupation timelines. They show ecological adaptation and technological sophistication. Australasia-related ancestry provides the final piece linking genetic history to capable human action. Ancient peoples were intelligent, skillful, and knowledgeable. Their legacy persists in modern DNA. Your ancestors were among those skilled navigators who made this journey 18,000 years ago. The DNA you carry contains markers from that crossing. This is not abstract history. This is your direct lineage. It is traced through hard science to the exact people who achieved this remarkable feat. The record now shows when, where, and how humans first reached South America. It shows how they adapted to survive and thrive. These skilled navigators carried knowledge across oceans and mastered new ecosystems. They coordinated complex group activity and preserved cultural understanding. The timeline is fully mapped and the gaps are filled. The convergence of multiple scientific fields demonstrates deliberate migration and expert problem solving. Ancients are confirmed as remarkable, capable, and intelligent actors. Their achievements resonate across millennia, linking us directly to them. The Amazonian genetic signal proves that the first Americans were not monolithic. Multiple founding populations shaped the continent. Their legacy survives in DNA, tools, and settlement patterns. We now understand that the earliest inhabitants were sophisticated, expert actors. They deliberately traveled vast distances and selected resources with geological knowledge. They coordinated group activity and maintained cultural continuity. The evidence validates their survival strategies and navigational expertise. What was once a mystery is now illuminated. The genetic, archaeological, and isotopic record aligns to show skilled human action. Ancients were deliberate navigators, planners, and problem solvers. They achieved remarkable feats of survival and adaptation. Your lineage traces directly to them. Their intelligence and skill live on in you. This discovery integrates decades of research across multiple fields. It demonstrates that systematic STEM approaches can finally answer questions about human origins. The human journey to South America was complex, strategic, and purposeful. Ancients mastered environmental challenges and resource management. They left a trace not only in artifacts, but in your DNA. The narrative is complete. Their achievements are fully documented. Evidence strongly suggests these founding populations were skilled, intelligent, and capable of shaping their world. The story of the first Americans is no longer fragmented. The genetic signal linking Amazonian tribes to Australasians confirms deliberate, expert migrations. It confirms they maintained social coordination and mastered survival strategies with advanced knowledge. Ancients were sophisticated actors, and their legacy persists in every descendant. The scientific record now confirms the story. We know the who, the when, the how, and the capabilities involved. These ancestors were not just survivors. They were masterful problem solvers and strategic planners. Their expertise is evident in every step of their migration, leaving a legacy we carry today. For decades, the question of human origins in the Americas puzzled researchers. The genetic links between distant populations remained unclear. Evidence now strongly suggests a surprising connection between Amazonian groups and Australasians. This finding extends the story of human migration far beyond the conventional Beringian route. For years, scientists debated whether early South Americans descended solely from Northern Asians. Radiocarbon dating of sites, combined with DNA analysis and isotope studies, now shows a different picture. The timeline is more complex, revealing deliberate movement across continents. These people were not isolated. Their DNA carries traces of interactions spanning thousands of miles. This indicates sophisticated knowledge of geography, resources, and travel. Researchers use targeted statistical tests to isolate signals of ancient admixture. The F4 statistic measured correlations in allele sharing patterns. By comparing topologies where Amazonian tribes formed a pair with Australasians, scientists detected consistent excess sharing. Positive F4 values rejected expectations under a Beringian-only model. The pattern was unmistakable. Labs in Germany, France, and the United States ran parallel tests. All reported consistent signals, showing the effect was genuine. These findings demonstrate that early Amazonians carried genetic traces from groups far removed geographically. This suggests early navigators deliberately traveled or exchanged with populations across continents. The intelligence required to maintain these connections is impressive. It reflects planning, memory of landscapes, and sustained interaction networks. Ancient peoples selected migration paths and managed resources strategically. Excavations in Western Amazonia reveal sites where tools were crafted from materials sourced hundreds of miles away. Stone, bone, and shell were carefully selected and transported. This indicates long-distance planning and expertise in material properties. The Surui and Caritiana were skilled at using their environment strategically. They hunted systematically and understood seasonal plant cycles. Isotope analyses of bone show they exploited both terrestrial and aquatic resources on a planned schedule. They did not wander randomly. Their movements were calculated. This evidence confirms that the observed signals reflect ancient admixture rather than random similarity. The convergence of evidence paints a coherent picture of highly capable populations. The weight of evidence points to intentionality and advanced problem solving. Early humans in South America were not isolated migrants. They engaged with a broader world. This capability mirrors the intelligence seen in other early populations, whether navigating coastal waters or hunting large game. The timeline for these interactions is remarkable. Archaeological evidence shows organized settlements with defined activity areas. Hearths, tool clusters, and faunal remains indicate strategic placement for safety and resource access. Tools were crafted with precision. Stone artifacts show deliberate shaping and optimized edges. These actions required knowledge of lithic properties and anticipated use. They were skillful artisans, not trial-and-error experimenters. Laboratory verification confirmed residues came from specific prey like deer and bison. This demonstrates hunters' ability to target specific animals with specialized implements. Early Amazonians maintained a sophisticated social network capable of transmitting genetic and technological knowledge. This coordination demonstrates strategic thinking. Sites occupied for thousands of years show continuity in resource use and settlement patterns. What was once uncertain now has a coherent explanation. The intelligence of these populations is undeniable. They mastered material properties and navigated complex environments. They tracked distant populations, preserving information that manifests today in small genetic fractions. Your lineage connects directly to these skilled strategic humans, bridging time with measurable continuity. The record is complete enough to show exactly how populations moved and thrived. Evidence from multiple independent labs now fills the timeline and resolves uncertainties. It demonstrates the remarkable achievements of these early humans. The genetic evidence is clear. Amazonian populations represent an early, deliberate migration into South America. Radiocarbon dating, isotope analysis, and DNA sequencing converge to show ancestry and behavioral sophistication. Archaeological evidence demonstrates mastery of tools and resource management. Coastal navigation and site selection confirm strategic planning. Coordinated hunting and social organization reflect high-level intelligence applied practically. The gaps that once obscured understanding are now largely filled. Your ancestors were among these skilled navigators who executed this remarkable journey. The DNA you carry preserves traces of their strategy and knowledge. This is not abstract history, it is direct lineage. We now understand precisely when, where, and how these humans entered South America. We know what capabilities they applied and how their achievements shaped survival. These findings confirm that early humans were sophisticated, capable, and intelligent actors. They solved complex problems, leaving a record still visible in their genes and tools. The complete picture of migration and survival is now established. It honors the skill and intelligence of your ancient ancestors, providing a satisfying resolution to a question that lingered for decades. The journey of Australasian ancestry down the Pacific coast is now traced, validated, and celebrated. It stands as a remarkable achievement of early humans whose expertise resonates through millennia. Your DNA contains evidence of this journey. It carries markers from people who deliberately planned migrations and coordinated hunts. This is your direct connection to expert navigators who crossed continents with purpose. They achieved survival and resource mastery through deliberate planning and technical knowledge. This mastery is encoded in the DNA you carry today. It validates ancestral intelligence and expertise. It confirms your connection to capable, skilled navigators who crossed continents and thrived under extreme conditions.